Hello, my friends. This is Lada from AstroLada.com. And today I have a fascinating guest. It's someone that you've never seen before. He would be part of the platform. His name is Teo, and he is a teacher, anthroposophist, astrologer, philosopher. I'm so excited to present him to you because we'll be talking today about conscious education or spiritual principles of education and what is most aligned to children and adults nowadays in education. Hello, Theo.
Hello there. Thank you for meeting me, Lada.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on the platform. Can you say a few words about where you come from, your spiritual teachings? I know that you were the leader of the youth organization of anthroposophy in England. You have a lot of philosophical, spiritual background and research. Can you tell us a bit more with your own words?
Okay, so I am a Bulgarian that studied in England, and now I'm back in Bulgaria. I studied as a primary teacher, but my professional background that we didn't discuss before is that I'm a hip hop dancer.
Okay, surprise.
And I stopped my university studies in Bulgaria because I was invited in England to purchase organic gardening profession, but I ended up in a spiritual center which was based in the anthroposophical knowledge. There I studied anthroposophy, pedagogy, and the anthroposophical philosophy, which opened my eyes like I cannot even say like what. It was a center where every month 50 young people were coming for a course for 2 weeks, and there were people who were very quietly giving spiritual understanding from the philosophical point of view for practical way of living in education, agriculture, philosophy, pedagogy, all the arts, everything you can name of. It was just a fascinating experience. And I tried studying there. I was studying there for 4 years, and amongst these 4 years, on the second year, I tried becoming the leader for the youth section of the Anthroposophical Society for Great Britain. They accepted me, and from there on, I started doing a little bit of lecturing and traveling, organizing some workshops and different uh, different gatherings of people on pedagogy, biodynamics, the new arts, and everything else. After that, I had a little bit of experience in Bulgaria and Egypt, and then I based myself back in Bulgaria to try to make some kind of a center similar to the one that I learned in England.
It's about time.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by all the work of Rudolf Steiner, who created anthroposophy. He was a very high level initiate, a clairvoyant, and you use a lot of his methods, and you've studied in depth because his work is extremely big. He has 27,000 lectures, dozens of books. It's impossible in a lifetime to read all, and he covers philosophy, astrology, he covers eating, he covers biology, he covers uh, politics,
Yeah.
absolutely everything, and education. The schools created according to the anthroposophical Rudolf Steiner method called Waldorf, that always some of the extremely unique and original people come out from there because they're according to spiritual knowledge, they're raised where education has levels. Can you start telling us a bit about that? Because, and I want to say, by the way, if anyone, Theo has a profile in AstroLada where he can give his philosophical, spiritual, and astrological insight. He mostly works with teachers and parents, but he can, I'm sure you can work with any kind of people because you give them not only just some astrological insight, it's actually much more than that because you give them answers to very human and everyday questions through the spiritual perspective and how they can handle this and what is the solution. I had a short conversation with Theo before we started this video for about 20 minutes, and he resolved one of my biggest issues, psychological issues, by telling me a piece of information I didn't know about. And I'm a bit still shocked. I'm excited. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's my issue. But in this short conversation, I received big insight and release from something. But anyway, I'll put the link below if you want to contact Teo for his spiritual abilities, for his teacher, philosopher. He's a guide. Your sun is in the ninth house, isn't it?
Yes.
So his Scorpio rising, sun in the ninth house in Cancer, Aquarius moon. Am I giving too much? Sorry, your Scorpio
No,
rising.
no, that's fine.
But he's a natural born teacher to give you. And what is sun in the ninth house? He's someone who can see from a higher perspective and give you direction in life. This is a guide, this is a guru, a teacher, call it whatever you want. And I'm honored to be in your presence and to learn from your knowledge.
Tell you honestly, it's a bit unfortunate for my wife because also my Venus, Mercury, and Sun are in the ninth house. And sometimes my home becomes a place where I preach and teach and say, oh, it has to be like this. And she's like, yep, you're not at work, you're at home.
And your wife is an Aries, so she doesn't
Yes.
like to be preached to. But Vedic astrology says that the husband is Jupiter, which means the husband is the teacher. So it's right.
Yes. But what does Vedic astrology say about the wife?
She's
Is
Venus.
she Venus?
She's supposed to be Venus. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing,
Beautiful.
Jupiter and Venus together. Too positive. It just sounds too positive. Yes, so like I told you earlier, I prepared a presentation which I would like to share screen before we start on the conscious pedagogical approach that we can do from a spiritual perspective. So to our listeners, we can begin from a more grounded perspective, and we can build it up slowly into the whoa, really type of questions.
Wonderful. By
And
the way, your camera keeps shaking. Is there a way it
yes,
can be
sorry.
disturbed?
Yes. Okay, I'm putting it like this. Is because, yeah, anyway. How should we go? Yeah, should I share screen now?
If you want, you can start talking first. And
So let me just open this picture. Conscious parenting. Unfortunately, sometimes before we even know that we are going to be educators to our children, the wife could be pregnant and not even knowing it for 3 weeks until she noticed that her period is not coming. But whatever happens between the parents at the moment of conception, there is a very interesting points of view from uh, philosophies from the past that they say even the moment of conception has to be impregnated with thoughts and imaginations of how we want to raise the child and what we want the child to be, to have moral values, to be strong, to be smart, and to be very empathetical. We can impregnate that even in the moment that we make love to our spouse.
wow.
And
I
yeah,
remember me and my husband prayed when we conceived my son, but he's so difficult. But hopefully in the
yeah, I mean, being in that process and trying to be spiritually conscious is it's a
very
very
hard
it's very hard. Yeah, especially when the the most important part comes, it's just too much.
to think of
And
angels and babies.
yeah, and from there and from here on, the next 9 months are just super important for the for the mother, because every thought that she has, it's it's going to it's going to be impregnated on the baby. Every thought, the baby is just looking like from a screen. He sees inside, or she, what is the mother thinking? What is the mother smelling? What is she hearing? What is she thinking? And you're just giving life experiences to the child. That's why Petr Donov also says, go in nature, smell flowers, listen to the river, try to give the most realistic, natural experiences to the child that you can, and also try not to For these 9 months, just say, for 9 months, my thoughts are not mine, they're the baby's. So I'm gonna try to give the good thoughts that I can. Of course, it's very idealistic, but it's good even for the woman to know that these things matter, and for the husband just to know that there's something amazing happening in the wife, in the woman. There is two souls trying to merge into one body. A man cannot experience that. Only a woman can experience two souls trying to mingle together while they're making another body. This is an immense experience for the woman.
Like
That's
a
why they
dance of two
say,
souls.
sorry?
It's like a dance of two souls.
Absolutely, because they know each other from before. The woman has chosen this baby that she's going to make a physical body for it, and the baby has chosen this mother for her to mold a body that he needs, the baby. And therefore, when they say, oh yes, when pregnancy comes, there's many hormones. Those hormones are based on the two souls trying to merge into a physical body. And that's why the hormones are clickety clacketing everywhere, because you cannot put two souls in one body. So
Yeah.
until the two soul has another body, they're just super intense energy driving everywhere in the body. And that's why the mother is bursting. She's making bones, she's making brain, she's making a heart. It's so intense. There is nothing in the physical world that can do such an intense um,
You make me,
biological experience.
I
Yeah,
want to
just
get pregnant almost again.
yeah,
The way you describe. What
yeah.
about
It's
those artificial wombs that they're saying it's the future? There is no soul there merging with another. It's just that's that would be something not fully human.
yeah. Well, I think that's too much for our beginning.
Yes.
I mean, I could really go directly into that, say, oh yes, it's not good. But I think we can go to that to that topic a little bit later. Because I think I jumped forward a bit too much. So yeah, the pregnancy is Peter Denov says it's the lifetime. Whatever you do in these 9 months, you've done your business for the next 8 years of the baby.
Can I ask something? Is it okay for the mom to do a lot of intellectual work? Not negative, but intellectual work while pregnant, or is it preferable not to, according from
Well,
spiritual science?
Well, it really depends, because here we cannot say, if the baby, let's say it's going to be born as a Virgo, and the
Mhm.
mother was needed to work on the computer, or really she was a scientist, or she was a writer, she needed to do that kind of work. She cannot just stop her job. And then the baby said, but I want you, I'm coming because of these specific qualities in you. You cannot just say, oh, it's not good for you. No, I'm coming because I'm going to be a Virgo. I need this.
Yes.
So one cannot say we shouldn't be emotional or shouldn't be using too much will. There are things that the baby comes to the parents because it knows that those parents are like that, and he needs that kind of experiences. We can just redirect, if we're using a lot of computer for intellectual work, we can redirect it to the pencil and to the notebook, or just more reading real books instead of a MacBook. This would help, because then they're learning from reality of things, and not the plastic reality that is being made now for all of us. So I wouldn't say no intellectual work. I would say, think about it. You are going to give it to your child. You need it. My wife, she learned how to drive when she was
Pregnant.
pregnant with my child.
Oh, wow. And that's stressful, learning new
And
skill from the beginning.
yeah, and it was, you mean, you can imagine how emotional it is to have people around you and you're learning how to drive. Now our child, he's a boy, loves cars. Everything about cars. Cars this, cars that, cars this, cars that. I'm not a big driver. I don't like cars so much. He's crazy about them. When I start driving, he said, "No, I'm gonna be in the front. I want to drive. No, Daddy, the car."
At
So
2 years old.
yeah,
There you
so
go,
you
it
can
imprints. Absolutely.
yeah, so we can see that it stayed with him. I don't know if in the next few years he's gonna be still like that, but I'm observing how the pregnancy went and how he's developing now. After we do our best in pregnancy, we try to make a place for the child. Prenatal education, I already talked about this. Now we're trying to make the place where the child will live, because now the room out of the womb is the baby room, or of course the shared room. It's not preferable for the baby to have its own room at the beginning. It's actually counterproductive. Even in India, they're speaking that the child actually should live with the parents until 7, not in the same bed, but in the same room. And here we enter the first stage of development from 0 to 7. It's on 7-year stages. The first 7 years is based on building the physical body. You can see from that picture, everything is blended together. The room is helping itself to look quiet, nice, beautiful, calm, because this place has colors that are engaging with each other. It has materials that are not made from synthetics. You see wood, you see cotton, you can see linen there in the basket. There is here on the just in the middle, there's a basket made from willow and other real materials that the child needs to engage with real things, all made from the natural world. When the child starts smelling the space, this is the first thing the child understands who the mother is, by the smell, because babies don't see. And of course, the touch, and even higherly, the astral body of the mother in the room. Here, pink is a color that is related to Venus. And Venus is very soft with children. She is trying to make them feel comfortable. Of course, the mother, the moon, the nurturing one, but Venus is about how the space looks. It's beautiful. That's what the child needs to learn about beauty, about calmness, because it was in heaven. When the baby is in the womb, the baby is in heaven. And that's why everything is given to the baby there. All the food, warmth, there, it's always warm in the womb, no matter where the mother is. Even in 0, 10, it's always warm. There's always food and water. Even if the baby kicks, you cannot do anything to it. Oh, don't stop kicking me. You cannot say anything to the baby. That's the heaven. When it goes out, some people try to give birth in water bath, because it makes a cleaner approach for the baby to enter the world, instead of entering luminescent white light and white walls, people with masks saying, this is what the baby hears. A lot of sounds, light, and everything. Whoa, where am I coming into? What is this place? And then they say, okay, it's time to cut the umbilical cord. And this is the normal moment where the child needs to engage with the physical reality. It just shatters the heaven space. Slam! You need to breathe by yourself. And it's like, what? The last physical organ developed in the body of the baby is the lungs, because they've never used them before. It never had anything. It was full of water. And when you go out, it opens up like crazy. And how we enter the world? With crying, with the first physical experience of the world. We enter life with pain. It's such a counteractive way of entering the world. What? I'm entering life with pain. So when we bring the child at home, from the picture, you could see it has to be calm. Now you're going to learn about the world, but we're going to make a slow steps for you to approach a physical world by the colors, by the sounds, by the touch, by the smell, because we want to give you time and space for you to engage the world with your own temp, instead of having some very green luminescent color from your toys, which are just hitting the face of the baby. They're just coming and say, look at me, look at me. This is what, if you can play out what the toys are saying or the colors, they're just coming and say, yes, yes, me, choose me, choose me, choose me. And it's crazy that one say, really? Is that what the baby experiences? For one to understand, it really needs to go down into a baby's body to take off the senses that we've already learned and to say, okay, it's my first time seeing this. Oh my God. Or, whoa, yes, okay.
Gentle, natural.
Very natural and slow. Of course, not everybody has the opportunity of that, but this is just for us to understand how we could help a child's development in the early years because they're very malleable. They're very flexible. They have such neuroplasticity. Even if we make an issue at that age, let's say after a week, we can try to empower the child and bring another way of experiencing the same thing. That's why the church in the 13th century said, give me your child for the first 7 years, and I will make a man out of him.
Mm.
Because they know when you embed the first 7 years, you've embedded a big part of the life. And it's because this is the first 7 years we develop the physical body of the child. The first moment when we know that the child is ready to start going to school is that he started or she changing their teeth.
Mhm.
They've already made the first physical substance for themselves. A tooth, the hardest part of our body. This is how Order of Education says, okay, if your child, nowadays children start changing teeth quite early. Some children start at 5. Usually it's between 6 and 7.
Mhm.
And then Waldorf say, okay, he's ready for first grade. Or if he didn't start changing teeth, they say, okay, 1 more year in kindergarten. Because we're seeing the temp of every child, which is different in their development.
Yeah, so every child has, my children started changing teeth at 5.
At 5.
Yeah, it's very early.
Yeah.
So
Well, as they say, you probably know that even teenage girls are starting to get their periods earlier and earlier. It could be connected to something else that Rudolf Steiner speaks about. When Christ was here, we were developing in the physical body until the age of 30. That's why between 30 and 33, he did what he needed to do. Now, in 1907, I think, he said, now we stop our physical development until 28.
Mhm. So
So
it
with,
decreases with
yes, it
the
decreases.
progress of time.
Yes. So more and more that we continue developing, the physical body will be finished earlier and earlier. So parts of the body will start becoming, will develop earlier. And in time, that this is and when it gets to 1 year old, let's say, this is when incarnation will not be needed anymore.
Huh? Oh, you mean physical? So that's how the progress of humanity. Because I remember he spoke that in the Atlantean times, if I'm correct, humans were not maturing their body to the age of 49, 50.
Yes.
And actually, when you're in that stage, you're very protected by the forces. So they were like almost like children till 50. It's not
Yes.
like they could not think for themselves. And he says it decreases. And like 2000 years ago, during Jesus' time, like you said, was the age of 30. Now it's 28. And he even said, like in 5,000 years from now, it will be like 15 years or even less. He
Yeah.
said when it reaches to the age of one, what? So one gets born with fully made body.
Exactly. It would not even probably, I don't know the answer. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna think with you. I think that when it gets to 7, I would say it would not need to you because if you're born and you until 1, then you don't need to, you cannot do anything because
Mhm.
you've achieved your physical development. And from there on, even when you're 1 year old, you can become a spiritual master or a
Yeah.
good astrologer or a scientist, genius, because you already have these organs. So I'm not quite sure it's not going to be in the form that we're talking now. one
Yeah.
year old baby, it's going to be with hair and everything else.
Shit.
But because he speaks about the sixth. the end of the sixth epoch, you know, the year 6000, there's going to be women will not be able to give birth anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that something will completely change in the way that we reproduce.
Reproduce. It's almost like just like in Atlantean Lemurian times, we were the same sex. There were no men,
Yes.
like
Yes.
Stein said. And
Yeah.
the splitting of the sexes started in the Lemurian times, which are millions of years back. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure. It's
Lemurian times? No, actually, no. This is
Heaven.
very curious. If, for me, looking into what Steiner talks about, actually, time spaces are very small. It was
Much.
15,000 years ago.
So we're being misled that dinosaurs existed 60 million years ago. Or...
He says that dinosaur existed. He says big lizards,
Mhm.
but he doesn't call them dinosaurs and not billions of years. No.
No, I've heard a lot of psychics or saints that say that time is not so long as we think. Like the
Yes.
quantum dating, it's been much shorter than
Yeah.
we thought.
Even if you look, Peter Denov says 8,000 years is from Adam and Eve.
Mm.
8,000. This is nothing. Nothing. 8,000 years is nothing, God. Just imagine what if from if we think about consciousness now, think about Christ's time. If we talk about Saint John, John the Evangelist,
Mhm.
he now wouldn't be as a profound person as he was then, because now we are thinking like he was thinking. We
Agree.
have an intellect, they had intellect. That's why they were pupils of the Christ, because they were foreseeing and they had qualities that generations ahead we would develop.
Would take them generate, yeah.
Yeah. So now he would be a normal person, yes, with clairvoyant qualities, but he would be a thinker like us. He wouldn't be like, whoa, it's John the Evangelist.
Mhm.
And that's what Steiner says. What I can do now, people in 1,000, 1,500 years, they'll be doing that as nothing.
Mm.
I'm just showing them to the people beforehand. Yes, he's a spiritual developed person, but he says in 1,500 years, it's going to be nothing.
He also mentioned that almost till 500 years ago, majority of people, there was still a lot of clairvoyants and psychics that
Yeah.
naturally could see entities and could see the elementals. This is the ancient clairvoyance that was meant out to die out. And he said
Yeah.
only in the last 500 years, it's actually that we don't have it. And but
Yeah.
it's norm 500. And he says it's very different if you can enter the body of someone from 2000 years ago, you will not feel like the human you are not now. You will not think the same way. Your thinking will not be so developed, but your feeling will be much stronger and some other intuitions will be much stronger. But it's, he says, that's why we reincarnate, because this life now, going back 1000 years ago, it doesn't feel like the same human experience. Not because the environment is only different, because you have different organs inside and
Yeah.
different perceptions and consciousness.
Yeah. And it's exactly this what helps us to say, okay, history is the history that we are learning now
Mm.
exactly like that, because we are trying to impose our way of thinking now to the people 2000 years ago. They didn't have that at all.
Yeah.
Something that amazed me, it was how he says the pyramids were made. And I was like, what? Like we're being told 4,000 years before the Christ. And he says, it could be then. He doesn't mention when it was, but he says, okay, it could be then. But do you know that actually people move these stones?
He
And
said that it was people, it wasn't
yeah,
AI.
it was people moving these stones. Yeah, yeah. Because I've heard many different ways. Yeah, then matter was very malleable and they were putting a cement into big wooden blocks, and that's how they were building the pyramids. So, okay, that sounds quite smart, and probably it was true. And then I heard him, and because he's my
Steiner,
authority, yeah,
Rudolf Steiner.
Steiner says, no, then people didn't have any way of thinking. They had muscle mass, extraordinary muscle mass.
Wow.
They were just, and that's where the Bible says the giants.
They
And
were
he says,
real.
those are the giants. And the men who were leading them, who were the intelligent people, they were much smaller, but because they had intellect, what the intellect needs humongous strength. So for you to give this strength, you lose your muscle mass. You become a smaller person, and you give way for the muscle mass to give path to the intellect. And to make the example easier, if you have two plants, cucumber plants, you can have one plant with gazillion flowers, and it's going to be enormous, but it's not going to give one fruit.
Mm.
And if you have another very small plant, but it can give 10 cucumbers, because it gives the energy to give path to something higher, which is the flower. And the next stage of the flower is the fruit, which is the cucumber. He says the same thing is with humanity. When you give the physical strength path to develop, it actually develops into an understanding. And this is where because we talked about conception, sexuality and giving and conception, if you don't give birth, if you don't have a baby, you don't use your sexual energy, the body's not going to just put it somewhere in your thighs. No, it's going to use it, and it's going to send it to the nervous system and say, okay, you're not going to reproduce, then you're going to become better, then you're going to think, then you're going to become smart. And if we use that energy, then we're saying, okay, I'm using my sexual energy for something better. And this is how these two poles, there's no bad pole or good pole, they're just two poles that need each other to help, because we need to reproduce and we need to think and develop. And this is how it's very hard to mix spiritual lovemaking, because you're trying to push the two poles together at the same time, but they just cannot suffice each other. So one of them has to, we drop into unconsciousness, we have an orgasm completely from the energy field, and you say, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And you can say, no, God says this is not amazing. You don't care about God when you're having an orgasm, because the orgasm gives a path for you to allow this energy to go into a space which is between the physical and the etheric, and then says, okay, this is the path. And then the soul goes like this. Says, okay, this is my place.
Well, just quick question. We've been digressing a lot, but I just love the knowledge you have, the information. So I have thousands of questions. What happens if a couple that creating a child, but they don't love each other, or it's just like a one-night stand? What is the spiritual consequences of that, and could it be corrected?
You can go 1,000 ways of answering that question. The child knows. All the three souls know before they even come. The father, before he came, he knew, okay, I'm gonna do what I do until 26. 26, I'm gonna meet the girl, we're gonna have a one-night stand, and I'm gonna have to go on my way. Because the father could have to give something to the soul from the previous life, to the child. Let's say the father owned some big money, because it's an easy example, big money to this child. Then the father dies at the previous incarnation, but the child continues living. So the father needs to be born before the baby. He lives, then the baby comes and says, you have to give me back that own. So you're going to give me your body and your physical strength, and I'm going to be with the physicality that you own. It gives birth. The father doesn't have any idea, of course, of what the souls talked about each other. The mother says from the previous life, okay, I remember you took money from my husband, and I hated you because of that. So this wife would not live with the man, because she needs to engage with the baby that they lived in the previous incarnation.
That was her husband in the past life.
Yes. So that's a way of explaining. It's much more entangled. But I'm a child from without a father. I've grown without a father, and I've really didn't want to be a father. I really didn't want to be, because of that. Because I don't want to bring a child into such a world. I don't want to be part of this. I want to help other people, but I don't want to be part of this. And until I understood, actually, if my father didn't go away, I wouldn't even get into those things. I
Exactly.
wouldn't be the person that I am. I'm not saying I'm very happy with the person I am, but it wouldn't make the path that this allowed
Mhm.
the missing of the father.
Mhm.
And it won't make me understand these things and try to be flexible and empathetical for that kind of questions. No, it wouldn't. It would have stopped me because my father is Muslim. It wouldn't really close me into the Muslim understanding and say, no, 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 none of
Mm.
this.
Mm.
So it's a very complex way. You need a real example. When people ask me, okay, what if blah blah blah? I'm saying no, no. You give me a
Each case is
specific
real
example.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I can see very specifically and try to understand, but I need many, many points of entry. Why, how, when, how many, da, 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 da. And then I make a picture and I try to put this anthroposophical point of working because it's a really it's a tool. Just thinking in this way. It's not the knowledge or anything. Just the fact that you can think in that way is um, is a big shot.
Mhm. Mhm.
From from the environment that we make for the child, let me just
Share
make
screen.
share screen again. We go to, yes, this is an example of another room just to see how it could be, because it's not nice to have only one example. This
It's
is a
all
very,
woods, all natural materials.
yeah, and it's actually not as expensive as some people would think, to be honest. And something that you don't see here, and you see here, is how much light there
Mm.
is,
Mm.
because the children need light. Here, I would say this is a room for a child above 5 years old,
Mm.
because this is only his room or her room. And it's really, the children just love the place. If you have a place like that, that the child can play, you can say that it wouldn't need, it's a 1/4 of a parent, because
Wow. The
the
space
whole,
itself.
yes, the space itself, it's like your good loving nanny. It cares about you. It just wants you to feel good, because wood doesn't have any negative interest about, because it's still a living, it's part of the etheric realm. So the child contacts the etheric realm, which the children are embedded in. There's another example here also from the other side. You could see the wooden oven, and again, more natural materials that are in a very fairy tale environment. You could see there is a scarf up there. It's almost imitating an astral field, an astral body, because you know they say the energy body field around us. Some people call it the aura, the astral body. It is colorful. Rudolf Steiner says that in the past, people knew how to approach someone because they could see the color of its aura. So when you have someone with red aura, you're okay. This guy is angry, I'm going to be much more careful. When a child enters that kind of a auric place, it says, oh yeah, I just came from that place because it was in the spiritual world just 1 year ago or something. And that helps, again, the stage movement. Here you can see the child again. It's typical for the Waldorf education, this little scarf above the head of the bed, because it's like the halo.
Ah.
It's keeping the halo understanding alive. And of course, the head is where the astral body, when we wake up, enters. The head is where it enters, and the feet is where it goes out. And this is another reason why Petr Donov speaks about having your head facing north or east when you are facing your bed. But those are specifics that are too much, and I can share more on private conversation with for for children or for people, for adults. Here I'm giving a bad example. This is a good example. This is a bad example. You can still see my screen, right?
It's too many
Yeah.
colors,
Yeah.
too
You can
bright.
just look at the floor.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just like a puzzle, which the person
Not
who made it,
organic. It's not organic.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't even have a sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask the person who made it, he probably just needed to make some kind of a picture and said, "Yeah, I need 15 minutes to pay me $50. That's why I made it."
Mm.
But if you look at this place, you just to make this wooden pails down there, the tiles, the person needs to do a lot of business.
Mm.
Here, you just print it on the floor. Uh, I mean, here the floor doesn't match the wall on the left side, the colors. No,
It's
the
kind of
colors,
disjointed a bit, yeah.
absolutely. The desk doesn't connect even to the floor or the wall. The chair also doesn't connect. The bed, only the white color that we see is kind of in a nuance. And the child just goes into the room, doesn't even know that he's living into a mental chaos.
Mm.
And this is if you have um, a nanny who is not happy with her job. She just comes to look after your child because she needs the money. It's the same thing. Having the room is not playing with the parents or with the child, and they become nervous. They develop different problems only because of staying in a place and living in a place of that. A few years ago, I heard people who try to develop buildings in this way, that this would be called a sick room. And when you have a building made of that kind of insights, you call this a sick building because you're staying in a place that's making you sick. There's another place of that sort. There's a very nice and pretty pandas back there on the wall, but they are not related to anything else in the room. The floor, there's a snake with numbers. On the right side, you see a Lego wall. Then you see a green wall, and you don't know
How it
what is
connects.
with what. Yeah, it's like yeah, you cut pieces from different places and you try to attach them because they fit, but they don't fit at all.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
flow organically.
yeah, here here you can see a mix of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a nice open big space, it's very important for the children to have open spaces so they can run and use their physical body. They just need to understand their physical body. Here, this is a good example. But again, the walls on the right side, the walls on the left side with all the figures. Yeah, we have an arc in the corner there, which is nice, but it's split pieces. Split here, split there. Also black. Black is a very bad color for a developing child to see, even more to wear.
What
Black
are the
is
colors recommended? More like on the pair, on the more
ta-da.
natural colors?
See, yeah. So this is we enter in the clothing, and here I
Ah,
have few colors. Pastel,
pastel,
pastel colors. Yeah,
pastel.
because they're not screaming. Let's say like the blue one here on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Here you have a pastel clothing, and preferably without any dots, like here, and many repeating images. Because then the child would see itself all the time. Because it looks at itself, it subconsciously sees its own presence. But when you put a cloth like that, now the cloth is being a helper for the child. Especially this one is made from all of cotton. Also helps. The child doesn't touch fake material and sees natural colors without any repetition. So it also understands beauty. When it grows up as a young lady, she will know that this is actually something very beautiful. I
Mm.
wouldn't look for clothes which like this.
Oh, most of the clothes are like that now.
Yeah. And when you see a girl like this, I mean, look at that. She looks, she's beautiful because the child is just gorgeous. But the clothing helps you to see that angelic presence of the child. If you put clothes of that sort,
The child is lost inside.
yeah. And the person again doesn't care who made the clothing. They just needed to make some sales. This girl was beautiful also on the top, but the clothing is just ruining the natural beauty of the child. And it's also ruining the understanding of beauty and the feeling of space. Because look at the bottom,
So busy.
child. In the background, you can see a wooden toy.
Yeah.
Do you see it?
Yes, yes.
I'll go back here. Here, on the wall. Look at the toy again. It's the rainbow. Those two toys are based in Waldorf and Montessori. Here, everything else, the whole philosophy is there. Here, someone who's trying to make sales says, oh, but we're also Montessori in the back. But then a person like me looks and says, yeah, you're Montessori only about the toy, but nothing else. So it's really that this wholeness is preferable because the child looks at everything at the same time with all the senses.
So they learn to think and to feel about connections, about how connections flow. And when things they don't make sense to the soul, there's some kind of disjointed thing happening in their soul.
Um, we, excuse me, I just need to play with the light. We understand about the world first with our senses. We don't have the intellect when we're a child, right? For us,
Oh, Theo dropped out. Just gonna wait for a second till he comes back. And we're back.
yes, when we are learning about the sense world as a child, we are basing our sense experiences on how we are going to start thinking. Practice is first, and then we develop theory. That's why children need a good practical world with good tools and instrument to develop rightful judgments, good moral understandings, mental standards, and emotional connections. Because if a child plays with an electrical toy that actually is bad for the child, the electrical toy doesn't care about the child. But if the child plays with a cat or a dog, the cat and dog care a lot and they love the child. So the child will understand that the world is loving. The living beings on the earth are actually positive beings. Or it's gonna learn that everything mechanics is actually bad, is trying to destroy your own organic body because of EMFs and etc. and etc. So depending on how we present, we are giving a representation of the world for the first years of the child, because then it makes, okay, jumping means that it hurts me because I fall down, then I try not to jump and don't do any sports. Or jumping gives me an experience that I can fly and it's amazing and I laugh. So then I'm interested in doing jumping and physical exercises. That's why these first very hard years for the parents, actually, because you're living with an organism that doesn't know how to manage the physical world. And at the same time, it has a soul which has demands and say, no, I'm the baby of the house. You're going to do whatever I say because I'm the baby. And the parents are trying to do push and pull games. Instead of after age seven, the child already understands many things. If you say no means no. When the child is 2, if you say no, says, I don't care. I do it, even if you say no. But after 7, we already missed a lot of what we can do. And I have parents coming to me and say, my child is 10. Can we do something about it? I said, we can try. We can
Mm,
try a lot, but prevention is the best way to manage these things. That's why I work more with parents and teachers in the early stage of development. Uh,
mm,
I mean, everybody can be helped, but it's a lot of work from the parents and the child or the teenager, especially the parents. The parents have to enforce every day at home whatever it's needed to change. And they think that I can do something for 2 hours a week. No, you have to do it for 6 hours a day at home and change your whole concepts of growing a child or being a family,
mm.
which sometimes is not a pretty picture. It's
Are,
hard.
are we gonna have like a whole damaged generation because almost every parent starts giving electronics, phones, me including, from the age of 2, 3 to the kids because of, it's easier and gives you some time. And is that correctable? Because of all the ADHD situations they probably form through use of electronics and all of those. Uh, Is this like such a big enemy of humanity for the years?
Well, until we use it for the purpose that it's given. I mean, we made phones to connect with each other from big spaces, different places. But now we're not using the phone for this. And the
Mm-hmm.
child cannot use a phone. I mean, if she's talking with mommy who's at work for a week and has to be somewhere, yeah, you can use the phone. It's not ideal, but to use the phone so the child can be entertained, something else. You better pay $50 to a nanny to entertain the child instead of giving him the phone, or buy him a puppy. The puppy will entertain the child, or do something which is related to in the entertainment world of reality. The phone is not entertaining the child. It's ruining its nervous system
Wow.
because
I
the
notice
phone.
after my kids play their games, they take my phone sometimes, play game, and they become more cranky. They can't sit still after that. They find everything boring because of overstimulation of dopamine. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come and play together. It's boring. I want the phone. And it's very hard. We're trying to limit now for 1 or 2 hours, but they just knowing that it's there, it's constant struggle. It's so hard if you miss this first years.
Especially if your work is based on needing technology. I mean, you're a very good
Because they
example.
see me. I'm
Yeah,
on the phone writing articles. I'm on the phone posting. And they're like, you, mommy, are doing it. Why can't we? And I said, but I'm working. But they don't understand. They understand example.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the thing is, you know that, but anyway, you need to do these things. If we engage more in family activities, that I'm guessing that you also do, traveling, doing sports together, doing some art together, having time for our children, that we do activities of arts, crafts, traveling, playing.
Mhm.
It helps for them to develop an understanding of what games is, what is entertainment, that's healthy entertainment.
Yes, yes.
Um,
They love, we started gardening. They love gardening now. And
yeah,
when the weather allows it, we're digging, putting seeds.
yeah. And children absolutely love that. Yesterday, my wife said, I'm gonna make mushroom soup. Okay, she brought the mushrooms into the living room, and me and the kids sat next to her, and she said, "Oh, you can help me with peeling the mushrooms." And I'm like, "Huh, that's very interesting. Let's see what's gonna happen." Two 2 years and 4 months, he never touched a mushroom before. He peeled 4 mushrooms perfectly.
Yeah.
He didn't break it. He loved it. He did extremely well because they're interested in these kind of things.
Mm.
And now he knows what mushroom is, and he will remember it for a long time. He will eat it with pleasure
It's as
because,
simple as that. It's as
yeah,
simple as you're
yeah,
cooking. Let them, like I also, when I cook, I ask them to help me. They even cut or peel garlic or salt. And but do you think it can balance it out? Because we can't fully stop electronics sometimes. If we travel, they need electronics to
Yeah.
so they don't
Yeah.
drive us crazy. So
Yeah.
we should balance it with as many natural, organic activities as possible.
My teacher, when I was in England, I visited his home. He has two daughters, and he was very clashed by technology. And he said, "Okay, I need to know how to use this and to use it for my benefit." The children had the TV, but the TV was in the wall behind a picture, a big picture.
Mhm.
And the only time when the TV was played was at the evening at 8 o'clock, when the whole family watches something funny together.
Mm.
So he says, I say yes, but in particular times. I
Yeah.
say yes, but whatever we say, okay, these 5 TV shows, you choose one of these 5. So there are 5 because there's freedom of 5 different, but the freedom from 5 different that we chose that are best for suiting for your age. Then he says, okay, but at that time, this movie we're doing only when it's all of us. So we are sharing at such kind of an experience.
Mm-hmm. So that comes to something very interesting because the last 1 year, I kind of started exploring unschooling, democratic
Mhm.
schools where the children are basically given total freedom. They
Yeah,
decide if they want, even in those democratic schools, they can use their phone, whatever they want to do, and the teacher helps them. And I was like very conflicted. They were saying this is the natural way, kids should do whatever they want. But what Steiner says and what you're saying now as well is no, kids at that age, they need authority. They want authority. They want restrictions. And especially I was thinking unschooling. Unschooling is the kids stay at home and they do whatever they want. No reading, no math, only if they're interested.
yeah.
And I was like, is this correct or no? But I even have a quote here in my phone. I'm not sure. I took a picture of it from Steiner, and it says, oh, no, it's on another phone, but it said exactly that because they asked him about those democratic schools and unschooling. He says, no, no, especially till the age of 14. He says
Yeah.
children need authority, not someone to be scared from, someone to give them direction, someone to tell them this is right, this is not right. Like you said, they would watch this thing at 8 o'clock at
Mhm.
limits. This is,
Mhm.
you're saying from spiritual perspective, this is the right thing.
It's, this, it's not as harsh it could sound, because when I went to his house, it was amazing experience for the whole family, because the children were helped with time from their beginning of their birth, that there are things that are happening in rhythms, and there are different rules, that we give you something, we don't give you something. So it's not like 10 years you look after a child without any philosophy, and then I come and you say, okay, no more this, only at 8 o'clock. No, you're just gonna shatter everything. It's that it needs to be built up. Children live in rhythm. Nature is in rhythm. Everything is in rhythm.
Mm.
So they need rhythms. And that's when we say every Tuesday at 8 o'clock we have a movie. They know. Okay, yeah. If it's Friday, he says, but I want to watch, Tuesdays is movie night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. After 2 weeks, he's gonna stop asking for that.
So even
So
if you miss the first 7 years, it will be harder, but you can gently introduce such kind of,
yes, you gently introduce rhythms.
not like suddenly, like we tried today and we've done a few times with my husband, no more electronics, and it
Yeah.
becomes a war for a week.
Yeah, it's like it's unfortunately it's like narcotics. If you stop the narcotics from someone, in 2 weeks he's gonna be miserable. He's gonna be shaking and his blood is gonna be going crazy because they need the dose. Yeah, with children and electronics, it is like that, unfortunately, for the nervous system.
Yeah.
So you gently need to introduce. After age of 12, when teenagehood enters hardly, then it's the father that can do that, and it's people who the child looks at out of the house. So someone famous or someone very important for him, an uncle or a coach, a teacher that he really admires, then only the people, all these people can completely do something for the children. That's why in teenagehood is the hardest, because the family doesn't have this grasp anymore. And this is related to the astral body. Until the age of 12, the Rosicrucian philosophy, which was the preceding of anthroposophy, says that the mother and the child are related until the age of 12 because the thyroid and the thymus gland are making hormones T4, T5, and the mother is actually making it possible for the child to be making these hormones. Her astral body is engaging with the astral body of the child, allowing for the child to make these hormones. If the mother is away, that's why there's problems when the mother is away, when especially the mother, the father can be away. When the mother is away from the child in the early age, it's unhealthy physically for the child.
Wow.
Yes, he could have a karmic need to build such a hardness in the child because he made something in a previous life. But if you have the possibility of being closer to your child until that, after that, the child develops its own astral body and he starts making these hormones by himself and other, of course, not only these, but this is the particular. This
What if
is
you're not the biological mother of the child? You've adopted it and you're raising it. It is your astral body helping it, or is the
depending on the mother. Petr Denov says that everybody can take the role of the mother,
Mhm.
which is a very strange thing because he talks very highly of the mother.
Mhm.
But he says if the mother is not there, the person who loves
The
a
mom.
lot this child is slowly going to get that trust from the child, and the child is going to lean on that person because the child doesn't have an astral body, doesn't
Mhm.
have even an etheric body when it's still young.
Mhm.
So he's looking for the closest thing that is trying to nurture it.
Mhm.
This is why Mowgli, the boy from the jungle,
Mhm.
even in the story, is very interesting. He learns the language of the animals. He learns the astral body of
Mhm.
nature. So he learns how to speak there, how to manage, how to smell, how to act, because he gets the astrality of the place.
Of
And
the
this is what it nurtures it.
apes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not fatal, basically, when you're an orphan and you have been adopted, you, till the age of 12, will use the astral forces of the parent that loved the adopted mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is good to know because they're
Yeah, there are parents who are doing, I mean, people who cannot have children and they adopt ones. They just, I know that people are they love it like its own child. And this is the thing, this is what the child needs.
mm,
It
uh,
needs, yeah,
one. Then something else. Maybe you've prepared it, but I keep asking you questions. Steiner says children shouldn't learn to read till 12. Can you explain this? Because he gives an example, his own story, where for some reason he had an illness, he couldn't learn to read till 12. He said
yeah,
because of that, he didn't put so much pressure on the left brain or whichever one is the reasonable, and he could develop properly his imaginative, more creative side, which
yeah,
allowed him to develop better his psychic abilities. And he says
yeah,
children, they're being forced to learn to write and maths from the age of 4.
yeah,
Wow, they shouldn't be putting that much, they're developing a different part of the brain. Can you talk a little bit about that and
yeah,
how it can be compensated for in the current? Apparently, it's a bad impact on the person cannot, if it does age, they don't develop those specific imaginative qualities or creative or
yeah.
whatever, the right brain, they cannot make up for it in later years. And that diminishes the intuition, that diminishes the ability to be in touch with the higher worlds. And
Yeah. So the another quote that I will say is that maybe a year ago I found out, and it really just jaw-dropping. He said, there is many initiates born in the world who cannot achieve their clairvoyance that they have in them, just waiting, because the educational system ruined the physical body for them, and it just closed the doors for how they should have developed as people.
The
So
perception of the higher worlds.
yeah, he's saying something very significant.
Mm.
You are not fulfilling your karma in the world because our system is stopping you from that. And then you're living a life on the next 50 years, which you are not supposed to be living.
Wow.
This is absolutely different from what they're telling you. Oh, yeah, well, even if you make a mistake, karma is going to get you. Well, he's saying no, the paths are very made. You're starting to be irritated and not a good person because you feel that you're not living what you were made to live. Someone, of course, the Luciferian and Aromatic forces, they divert you just a little bit. But this little bit for you to learn to read or to write too early when you're 40 is not going to be a small thing anymore. It's going to be a super important thing that you learned too early. So what he mentions, and I've developed that through looking at the medical lectures, the nervous system is the hungriest system in the physical body. It takes 30, 35, 40% of the energy of the human being.
Oh, wow.
When a child is born, the nervous system is very important, but it's not the only system that we're using. The heart and the metabolic system are equally important. When you give tasks to a child which take eagerly the energy for developing bones or teeth, and the child starts learning how to write, let's say, because Steiner says writing is better than reading.
What do
Let's
you
say
mean better? It's
it's better to learn how to write first and then how to read.
uh-huh.
If I start writing when I'm 4, but I'm still making my heart, I'm still making my liver, I'm still learning what is blue. How am
Mm,
I going to learn to write and I cannot blow my nose yet?
mm,
I haven't learned how to pee properly, but I'm using my hand for writing. I'm entering the world of symbolism, which is the philosophy world. The child has not entered the physical reality of its own body yet. Some children cannot do a front twirl.
somersault.
Yeah, when they cannot walk like a duck, cannot jump with 2 legs or one leg. They don't know how to move their toes, let's say. And they're using a very specific Virgo activity, very specific and intellectual. And it's on the tip of the pen. So they're doing an activity that is very tiny.
Mm,
It's very far away from them. They're still a body. They cannot move their body. So they're using all that energy to try for years. They don't, until 9, they didn't learn how to write. Even if they start when they're 2. I'm certain in that.
yeah.
They're gonna be better prepared in school. No, they're not. They have lost their energy for developing organ systems.
Mhm.
They now, when they say, well, I don't know why he has such bad teeth. He doesn't eat any sweets because he was not allowed for the blood flow to go to the teeth, because you stopped the blood flow at the hand and at the brain system. It
Amazing.
didn't allow to develop the eyesight properly. So children start writing sideways. They
Mm.
start writing mirror, and they say, "Oh, this is I forgot how it's called now. They call it somehow now when people write mirror instead of properly. They say,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, he needs to go to the logoped." And no, he doesn't. He doesn't have any problem. He just needs to stop writing so early.
Mhm.
And how we introduce writing is by painting. There is a way of introducing writing slowly. Painting with big brush. So we start from the big body. The first thing that the child has is the body.
Mhm.
Then you can take an outer something to play, to do something with it. So we give a big brush, then a smaller, then a smaller, then a smaller brush. Then we have a big pastel, because the child will grab it like this. It will not grab it like this. Rub the pastel like this, slowly, 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 smaller pastel. Then we have a big pencil. Then we give a big pencil like this, like this, like this. And we can allow the child to hold it like this. That's not a problem, because it's still engaging into experimentation. Writing is good after the child has made its own teeth. So when it has grasped the physical realm on its own, that's the first thing a child makes from the physical world. The first achievement, it's walking. The second achievement, it's speaking. Now I can share the more interesting pictures. And the third achievement, it's thinking. Only when the child is 3, he starts experiencing what is thinking. Lada, can you allow me to share screen?
I think you can.
And I tried now, and I'm not allowed.
Oh yes, you just because you dropped out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna jump forward a little bit. Excuse me for that. Here. So, I can send that diagram on the first consultation I have with everybody, or I can even give it for you to put it on the website if you're interested. This is specifically for children. Here, can you see the top?
Yes.
Yes, okay. On the top, you can see the first ear. First ear of the child learns how to walk and how to will. This is the will, how you grab a hold of your body. This is how we will ourselves into the world. This is a gift of the angels. They help us. They move, they mold the etheric body around us, the etheric realm. When someone says, wow, they're like rubber bears. They fall down, they hit, but nothing happens because they're very soft. This is because the angel is always around the child. When a child falls down and you're like, oh my God, did you see it? It was awful. But the child turns around and smiles. It's because the angel softened the etheric realm there, and the child actually didn't hit. This is what we saw, but this is not what the child experienced. The second thing in the year 2 is when children start speaking. They start feeling the world because they engage with the world with a human sense, a human capability, because nobody else can speak. This is the gift from the archangels. They put us in different situations. Archangels are related to contacts with other people. An angel is an angel of only one person. An archangel is an archangel of a group of people. Every group of people, every nation, every society, every city, every corporation has an archangel. If there is more than one group of something, archangels are there. Archai are related to the thinking. Those are higher and higher beings. Archai are related to whole time spans, not only to nations, but whole, let's say...
Age of Aquarius.
Ages, thank you. Yeah. And they give us the capability to think. Children are not really thinking, let's say, how much is 2 plus 2, and they can say 4 when they're 3 years old, but they start making concepts. This is there, this is that, this is at this time, this happens, and etc. and etc. By that time, reading and writing is absolutely out of the question. You can see at the age of 7 is the birth of the etheric body and the change of baby teeth. Down in the middle, you can see between 3 and 5, between 5 and 7 are different periods of the systems. So the metabolic limb systems between 5 and 7 is becoming better and better. So if I try to give a child to write between 3 and 5, when the lung and the heart system are developing, I can make an asthmatic.
Because you take
Children don't,
courses for developments of the lungs.
yes, or problems with the blood flow, or with the child not being able to send the blood to the hands, to the fingertips, because the system is trying to develop at these years. So when the metabolic and limb system between 5 and 7, then I can start approaching these type of qualities, writing, because you are starting to control system that puts symbols on piece of paper. With these symbols, I translate a word. Children don't understand words until 5, 6 yet. They know what they mean, but they don't understand them. So I cannot ask from the child to write something that he doesn't understand yet, or to tell me, when we tell children, okay, uh, if you ask, enter the room and say, where is my cup? The child will point with the finger and say, your cup is there. And you say, no, say a whole sentence. The cup is on the table next to the flowers under the pot. The child cannot understand that because he doesn't live in the mental realm. He lives in the now because the heart lives now. The life doesn't have the heart and the lungs don't have time. They need to breathe and pump now. The brain is who has future and past. So the children have not engaged in the future and past yet to be able to engage with the symbolism. And Rudolf Steiner speaks about that when we go out, when we develop the physical body, we made the first teeth, and we are allowed now to have the etheric body in our side, because until 7 we don't really have the etheric body, we are still developing the physical. Then the etheric forces fortified from the making of teeth and organs, all these forces now can be used for thinking, studying, reading, learning, that kind of tasks and everything else. Because
So from 7 onwards is okay.
from 7 onwards, it's okay to start writing.
Okay. But
He holds it until 9 and 12 years old, because then bigger forces are coming to our side. The astral forces are coming to that side, and then you can use these. When a child is 10, he'll learn to write super quickly. He's not going to be slow. Children are going to learn very fast.
That's what, because I'm on a lot of groups of mothers who unschool, for example, and they said, yeah, my child is 9 or whatever, he couldn't write or read, but he learned around 9, or he learned in 2 days, in 3 days, suddenly he could read and write.
Yeah.
And by that time, but we force the little ones from 4 or 5 read, right? They only become good at it around that age anyway.
Yeah. It's almost like being worried about your child not having teeth until he's 7, saying, oh my God, he doesn't have teeth, we need to do something about it. And you try an absolutely unnatural process. Because children first are going to learn, but they are not going to learn how to play, how to speak, how to plant, how to draw, how to be artistic, to have an artistic view. Children need to cut paper, they need to do something out of mud, they need to plant flowers, they need to seek the world. After 10, when they're teenagers, they're gonna look at that like, well, I don't need to play the guitar, why do I need this? Because they're
So
not
they
gonna
won't
need
have
it.
the ability to play and love to learn those new things.
Yeah, to be
It's like the
interested in these
joy
things.
will be taken out. That's what makes depressions later in life. That's what makes a kind of other nervous conditions.
Yeah, because if you teach a child between 7 and 10 how to play an instrument, he's not gonna forget that. If you teach a child how to listen to good music and see people with instruments between 4 and 6, he's not gonna forget that. He's gonna fall in love with that. He's gonna have the interest. And instead of that, we're trying to teach math and grammar and writing when they're between 3 and 7. And this is the time for play and for the storytelling, for the magical of the world. This is the only moment in life that we have it. After that comes consciousness, comes intellectuality, and it totally kills the way of looking magically into the world as a
That's
fairy.
what makes robotized automatons that just
Yeah,
work, go home, watch TV, go to work, go home, without any kind of creative impulses, without any ability to feel joy in life and have fun.
yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
now we have courses, creative thinking, and all these things when we're
30.
30 and 40, and you think, oh, I'm just going to take a course, I'm going to be so creative. That's rubbish.
You missed the time.
Yeah,
Well,
because,
that's what is most noticed is in the Asian countries. They start them really young with the academics, and it's coming into the Western world now.
yeah,
Uh, so we have a lot of work to do for the kids to know the spiritual phases of their developments, so we can grow them to be healthy humans, to be whole humans. I mean,
yeah.
there's so much more we haven't covered from 14 to 21 or from 7 to 14 much. Maybe we can come and talk again because I think this topic is incredible. And I think many parents that have older children will be interested for the second part, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, what can be done. We kind of focused on the early 7 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So good to be my guest again. It would be great to discuss this. And I
Yes.
want to say to anyone who needs advice as parenting, as a teacher, or spiritual advice for themselves, they'll put a link below. As you can see, he's an incredible teacher, explains very easily the spiritual principles, is not bigoted into some kind of a religious, but he explains it very practically, very simply, and how it's aligned, the practical side of life with the spiritual for ultimate alignment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lala, for allowing me to be on to meet you. I mean, even virtually. It was a pleasure for me. I'm going to be very happy if you can meet again. And I hope this was helpful for all your watchers.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Teacher Teo. I can't wait to have you again here.